Give it a minute, give it a minute. Oh, that's why. Oops. Oh, I gotta take a video of this.
Here are 4 generations of the Roosevelt family. Sitting down here next to me is Mrs. Roosevelt, my wife, and my granddaughter, Anna Roosevelt Dowell, on her left, and then my daughter, Anna Dowell, and Buzzy on her left, and then my left our campaign statistic.
Happy days to hear again.
Good, that's right.
That's him, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They call him FDR. FDR.
What a dresser with the cigarette holder and the hats. He was quite a guy. I loved him. I was crazy about him.
The man is alive. He's vibrant. He loves what he does. He radiates joy. I mean, his eyes just twinkled. And FDR could turn the socks off of you, but the thing was, he liked you.
The greatest president since Washington and Lincoln. People elected him 4 times. 4 times. He was a radical and a double-crosser. How do you know? My father told me. Roosevelt tried to ruin the country.
Roosevelt, he saved our farm. He gave us hope.
This is preeminently the time to speak the truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper.
In 100 days, Franklin Roosevelt transformed the American government, made it huge beyond belief, made it part of everyone's life. He was the ultimate politician, the man who got things done. He hated corporate greed and rescued capitalism from its own excess. An aristocrat who reignited the idea of a government for and by the people, made the people his partners in his passion for a better democracy. Franklin D. Roosevelt loved being president.
We were not supposed to wave, ordered my mother. The cheering was from my grandfather. I'm the little boy, and it's my older sister. Sis and I lived here as children. This was home to me, as well as to my grandfather. What a place to play. Hiding behind trees for tag and hide and seek, and it was a wonderful place to grow up. My grandfather was a marvelous grandfather, as well as being president of the United States. He would read the funnies to us, and he was terrific.
That's his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt.
Eleanor Roosevelt went everywhere. Eleanor Roosevelt broke the mold as the First Lady.
She went into the heart of the country and learned what was really going on.
To give of her personal presence to people, to occasions, to causes.
No other First Lady was like Eleanor Roosevelt before or since.
I'm very happy to be back, and we've had a particularly delightful trip and enjoyed every minute of it.
So many times people say I look so much like my grandmother, and then say, what is it? And I think that, I hope anyway, it's her smile that I've inherited. I'm so proud of my grandmother. She wanted to be helpful. There was nothing complicated about this. There was nothing ambitious about this. She simply looked at who she was and where she was and tried to figure out how to be helpful.
She was First Lady for 13 years, but she had a political career for 17 years after FDR's life. She wrote 17 books, 556 articles, 8,000 columns. She was a member of the first American delegation to the United Nations. She was courageous, she was intense, she was sweet, and she always put you at ease and gave you courage.
My dear Mrs. Roosevelt, I have worried myself almost ill trying to think of some way to get some clothing, and after a while decided to write to you. I know you must have so many discarded clothes because you will always look so lovely in your pictures. And I know you are kind because you have such a sweet face. I have a little boy 9 years old and work as a maid at a family farm.
They're only gray for a
And I
day.
can't possibly clothe my child.
So wrap your troubles in and dream your troubles away. Until at
1932. We called it the Great Depression. So many people out of work.
Everything gone. Jobs, savings, food.
You had nothing, you got nothing, absolutely no money. Everybody had to hustle and struggle. On the day Roosevelt was inaugurated, banks were closed in 32 states. Couldn't pay their customers. In Pittsburgh, Detroit, half the people were out of work. Illinois closed 1,000 schools. Couldn't pay the teachers. In West Virginia, 90% of the children suffered from malnutrition. In a single day in Mississippi, half the state's farms were put up for auction.
First of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. This is the original manuscript of the inaugural address as written at Hyde Park on Monday, February 27, 1933. Here it is in his handwriting. FDR was himself, as far as I recollect, fearless. What he radiated was his own sense of confidence and his confidence in Americans. The American people related to him, and he related to them, and that was his bond.
I pledge myself to a new deal for the American people.
He called it the New Deal. A New Deal for the forgotten man.
And he said, nobody's gonna starve in this country. Everybody's gonna have a little food. Every person who's an American citizen has a right to enjoy the fruits of liberty. And that was the New Deal. Social Security, welfare, unemployment. All of these things were ways of saying, we're gonna treat you properly because you're American.
All together, 10 million jobs, banking reform, stock market reform, programs for farmers.
If the average citizen is guaranteed equal opportunity in the polling place, he must have equal opportunity in the marketplace.
This driveway had a very particular memory for my grandfather. You know, he had polio. You know, he was crippled. Part of his therapy that he invented for himself was to drag himself on his crutches with no support from his legs whatsoever, just his arms and shoulders, moving those crutches forward and the legs coming up, all the way up to the end of that driveway. At a young age, I just was unconscious of his being crippled. When we went swimming later, then I could see just how powerfully built he was, arms, shoulders, chest, and then it came down to nothing, shriveled hips and legs.
He has one priceless attribute, a knack of locking up his and the world's worries in some secret mental compartment, and then enjoying himself to the top of his bent. The quality of survival, physical toughness, of champagne ebullience is one key to the big man. Another key is this: no one has ever heard him admit that he cannot fall. Time Magazine, June 1940.
Remember the Dust Bowl? People, the land nearly died. The whole middle of the country saw its precious soil picked up and blown away. Doesn't happen anymore because Franklin Roosevelt knew what to do, and he did it. Franklin Roosevelt changed the face of America.
200 million acres of trees from the Dakotas to the Texas Panhandle to stop the dust storms.
39,000 new schools, 65,000 playgrounds, 1 million miles of highways.
A U.S. Mint for San Francisco, a city hall for Kansas City, an auditorium for
Airports for Washington, for Philadelphia, for Cleveland, New York, Chicago.
A new post office for Concord, for Crawfordsville, Coronado, Carlisle, and Camden. Buildings in Baton Rouge.
Grand Coulee Dam, Bonneville Dam.
Tennessee Valley Authority, electric power for farms and towns and back.
Natchez Trace, Pennsylvania Turnpike, overseas highway to Key West.
Lakeshore Drive, East River Drive, Skyline Drive.
A medical center for Jersey City, a subway system for Chicago, a great mall for Washington.
3 billion trees for forests and parklands.
The first presidential library, his idea, his gift to the American people.
I'm glad that you have come today because, as I suggested at lunch to some of the trustees, this is the last chance you've got to see this library free of charge.
Nothing like a library, no. There's so many great stories. I love this picture of my grandmother with Marian Anderson. I love how happy she looks. How happy they both look to be in each other's company.
Match before Lincoln Memorial to hear Marian Anderson, colored contralto, make her capital debut at the Great Emancipator Shrine. Refusal of the DAR to let her use their hall, and a countrywide controversy, with this great gathering at the climax.
Grandmère resigned from the Daughters of the American Revolution, who owned the hall and who had prevented Marian Anderson from giving this concert. But instead of just protesting, she arranged for Miss Anderson to sing at the Lincoln Memorial for thousands.
Eleanor Roosevelt was the first lady of civil rights.
A white woman who had no prejudice and no fear. That's what gave her power.
She was in her 70s. She traveled along to Tennessee to support the civil rights workers, where she knew the Ku Klux Klan was waiting for her. The Klan put a bounty on her head, $25,000. They found dynamite packed around the wheels of her car.
What?
And she persisted, even knowing that there were attempts on her own life. As she said, courage can be exhilarating.
Roosevelt saw the war coming before anybody else.
He knew all along what it was. Saw the man. He kept trying to tell us.
Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the nasty. There can be no appeasement with ruthlessness. There can be no reasoning with an incendiary bomb.
He risked his political career getting ready for the war when no one would listen.
If your neighbor has a fire, lend them your garden hose. That's what he said. Called it Lend-Lease.
So our country is going to be what our people have proclaimed it must be, the arsenal of democracy.
We produced more than all the countries of the world combined. Roosevelt made that happen.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
When Roosevelt led the United States during World War II, he was the head of the greatest coalition of nations and the most extensive war the world has ever seen.
The United Nations constitute an association of independent peoples of equal dignity and importance. The United Nations are dedicated to a common cause.
All through the war, he kept repeating, the United Nations and the four freedoms.
Freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of every person to worship God in his own way. Freedom from want. Freedom from fear. They are the ultimate state.
The war really pushed FDR in every capacity he had to be a leader. He worked 12, 15 hours a day. He was also declining in health. And in a sense, and I don't think it's overstating it, the war killed him.
I heard it on the radio and it hit me.
I was coming home and paper boys yelling.
I couldn't even eat my breakfast.
Paul came over.
I was walking alone down a dirt path alongside the Naval Airfield on Maui. A fella came running by and he shouted at me as fast without breaking his face. Roosevelt had died. I never felt so alone in all my life. It was like losing your own father.
He was a classy guy.
My mother came into the house, and she was different. And she said, son, she said, Roosevelt died.
I think that it is the destiny of this American generation to point the road to the future for all the world to see. It is our prayer that all lovers of freedom may join us, the anguished common people of this earth, for whom we seek to light the path. I see an America where factory workers are not discarded after they reach their prime, where there is no endless chain of poverty from generation to generation. I see an America whose rivers and valleys and lakes, hills, streams, and plains, mountains over our land, and nature's wealth deep under the earth are protected as the rightful heritage of all the people. I see in America unified by tolerance, confident in strength, because their body and their spirit are secure and unafraid.
They brought him home to Hyde Park, the place he loved most, to bury him where he was born.
And the newspaper said, men will thank God on their knees 100 years from now when Franklin D. Roosevelt was in the White House. The man driving the taxi asked Mrs. Roosevelt, who now will talk with me about my government? All across the world, people wonder, who will be the protector? Who will have the force to keep them free? Who will keep alive this dream of democracy? Who will replace this man who gave the world the gift of hope?
Eleanor Roosevelt said in 1956 that we're all on trial to show what democracy means. And when I get sad, when I get afraid that we're going to forget our responsibilities to one another, or that the world will degenerate, or that the UN will fail, I think about them. I think about the commitment and the courage that the Roosevelt showed.
They worked together as partners to improve people's lives to improve the expression of democracy for our country. Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt were the people's friends.
Great, and that really sums it up that far. To see this film before you get to the library museum, and I love that little joke he has, this is the last time you'll get to see it for free. So yes, he was charming. He was a very smart leader, right? And committed to this ideal of a democracy. But that puts all of us in the driver's seat, right? Being part of a democracy is the type of government that if we let people who choose to, be in power and have a say and not express our thoughts, our ideas, then we're really not fully engaged. And that's what we'll be looking at later on. That's the little civics activity we have planned for you. But I do want to get you over to that museum because at 11 o'clock, the park rangers will meet us at the library museum. And as Mary in her introduction and I had said, you kind of know the layout of the museum. So let's get up and go head over there. Go out the
That's
lobby.
fun.
Follow Mary.
Thank you so much. Let's pull this charger out. Hey, who wants to be in the live stream? Come on.
How many people are in there?
Oh, none yet. But there was a couple already. There's already a couple that watched it.
Wait, so there's no one in your life?
Not right now. And so y'all could just say hi.
That's so sad.
Come on, say hi. Hey. Oh, they're going. It's gonna be fun. Ooh, they got FDR statue out there. That's sick. Yo, want to be in the live stream?
I'm alright, dude.
Okay. Hello there.
How you doing?
Good. That's good, FDR. Just chilling out with your wife. Cool. Ooh, this is nice. We got a cafe as well if we want to go. I'd like some coffee. So I am currently live at Hyde Park. There's some decor. Wait, I'll zoom in on it for you. But yeah, y'all are gonna love it here. Sorry, I haven't introduced myself though. I am Blake Garnish, the crazy one. I hope you like this video, so please like and sub if you haven't already.